Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am the former classroom teacher turned homeschooling mom and private reading tutor behind Little Otters Learn. And here on my YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram page and my blog, I offer different homeschooling topics and tips, as well as curriculum reviews and flip-throughs like this one. So this is going to be a little bit of a longer video. In this video, I am going to compare these 6 different science workbooks for you across a set of criteria. And I'm hoping to give you a good idea of the merits of each of these, maybe what they do well, and maybe what they're lacking, so that if you need a science program in your homeschool or your after-school setting or your tutoring, or if your child is in a brick and mortar situation and you need something that's more of a supplement, I want to sort of show you all of these texts, because I think what happens is that when you go to buy something like this, you can kind of compare them, the samples that are online or the description or the reviews, but you don't see them all together. So I have done the heavy lifting for you. I've purchased all of these. I've gone through them. I've identified sort of categories to compare them. All right, so let's get started. Okay, I'm going to actually start with Spectrum. Let me make sure. Yeah, let me move my coffee. Okay, so what I've done is I've chosen the 3rd grade level, because as kind of the middle grade within the elementary sequence, I thought that that would be a good representative sample. So if you're actually looking for grade 4 or grade 5, you might be able to sort of extrapolate what those grades would look like using this as a sample. I will say that some of these are available in like the pre-K, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grades. I personally don't think that a science curriculum, certainly not a workbook, is necessary and maybe not even appropriate for those ages. But 3rd grade and beyond, in my opinion, that's kind of where maybe you can start some sort of formal science instruction. Okay, so let's talk about cost. This Spectrum workbook is $8. And it's available on Amazon, Rainbow Resource, Barnes & Noble, and the publisher's website, which is the Carson DeLosa website. And you can also get the ebook on that site. Oh, let me back up and mention that these are the categories that I'm comparing. Cost and availability, which I just went over for this one, the grades and the levels that it's available in, the length of the workbook and the number of lessons that it contains, does it have an answer key or not, how is it organized? Does it include any reviews or tests? What are the science strands that are covered, and does it have any mention of different national standards? Does it provide hands-on science experiments or experiments? And then I want to show you what a typical page looks like. Okay, so Spectrum, as I mentioned, is around $8. You can also get used copies of most of these. I would just be very careful if you're getting used copies on eBay or Thrift Books. Just make sure that it's not already written in. The grade levels that this covers is grades 3 through 8. The length of this particular workbook is 144 pages, and that does include an answer key. You can see that the answer key included in the back just has the answers. It's not like the mini view of each page. It contains 49 lessons, and I'll talk a little bit more about this organization in a moment. The lessons each have 2 pages. So there is 1 page of text, and on the left-hand side, there are like relevant details and vocabulary. And then on the right-hand side, you have the questions. There is a good mix of both multiple choice questions and kind of like more short answer or open sort of questions. This text is longer than in most of the other resources, aside from one of them, which is the Steck-Vaughn Houghton Mifflin series. The text in this one, though, is smaller than the other one. I should say the font. So the amount of text is about the same as the other textbook that I mentioned, but the font is much smaller. I mentioned that the answer key is included in the back of the text. And as far as organization, it has these 7 chapters: science as inquiry, physical science, life science, earth and space science, science and technology, Science and Personal and Social Perspectives, History and Nature of Science. This is kind of an interesting addition that the others don't have. It also has reviews built into each chapter. It has a mid-test and a final test. The final test is 4 pages long, the mid-test is 2 pages, and the reviews are 2 pages. The strands that it covers are all listed here, and from what I can sort of see from this text, you are covering the basics of earth science, physical science, and life science, as well as this like technology and historical perspectives on science. You can't always tell from the title of the lesson like what it contains. The titles are more to, kind of draw you in and get your attention, but they're not exactly clear. It's not necessarily the topic, it's more of a title. This does not contain any hands-on experiments for kids. However, there are some sections that have this almost narrative explanation of an experiment. So the characters, it's like describing how the characters have conducted this experiment, but there's not like a hands-on experience for the kids to follow. I'll just rest here so you can see how a typical page is laid out. Again, it's a page of text and then the section for the students to complete. There's 1 illustration per lesson, and sometimes it's an illustration, a diagram, a photograph. That part is in color. And yeah, I think that's all I had to talk about with this one. So I think the major takeaways from this is it does have the reviews and the tests mixed in, and the text itself is a little bit longer. It does contain 49 total lessons and 144 pages total. I have my printer is a little bit messed up, but you can see from my notes that I take these reviews very seriously. I have this whole chart drawn up for you. Okay, here is Evan-Moor Skill Sharpeners. They have the Skill Sharpeners series for a lot of different subjects. This is for grade 3. And you'll see as we get into this that it's full color. This is, I would say, compared to the Spectrum, which has like just the illustration or the photograph in color, this one is completely full color. This costs around $7 or $8. You can get it from Amazon, Rainbow Resource, and the Evan-Moor website. This covers kindergarten through 6th grade. Again, I don't necessarily think that a science curriculum is, necessary for the kindergarten, 1st grade, or maybe even 2nd grade age range, but that's just me. There are 141 pages, and they do include a full color mini version of each of the pages. I know some people kind of prefer this style of answer key. There are 16 lessons, and within the 16 lessons, each lesson has 8 pages. The pages for each lesson are, there's 3, I'll show you this first one. There's 3 pages that have reading, kind of the information. Oh, this one just has 2? No, let me see. Yes, 3 pages. So reading, reading, and reading. The 4th page is a visual literacy page. So they're showing you some sort of chart or graph that the child is expected to interpret. Then there is a vocabulary practice page. And then there are 2 hands-on science activity pages. And then you move into your next, and then there's the application. So those are the 8 pages. The 3 pages of reading, 1 page of visual literacy, 1 vocabulary practice, 2 hands-on activities, and then the application, which gives the student some sort of prompt. I think that this layout would be a little bit challenging to fit into a 4 or 5 day week. You certainly could, take the 8 pages and divide them across 2 weeks and do 4 pages a week, but then you would have the hands-on activities back to back. You'd have to see content-wise if it would make sense to just read, 1 or 2 pages one week and then save the rest for the following week. Like, could the child complete the activities in week 1 here if they haven't read all of the reading pages? There are 4 units, and 1, 2, 3, 4. They cover the usual strands of earth science, life science, and physical science. And within each of these 4 units, there are 3 to 5 lessons per unit. So some of them have more and some of them have less. There's also a QR code on this front cover that you can scan, and it brings you to I think it was like a 30-page teacher's manual that you can download, and that does have background information and an extension activity for each of the units. So it's not a teacher's manual like the other Evan-Moor resource that I will share, but it's kind of an abbreviated version and helpful nonetheless. It is aligned to the next generation science standards, and you can find them, kind of a version of them is listed here on the side. Each side, sorry, let me move my coffee. The side panel here on each page has the lesson and then some of these key concepts, and then the standard is usually kind of incorporated into that. I mentioned that it has physical, life, and earth sciences as the strands. And I also mentioned that, yes, it does include hands-on science experiences. Here's the hands-on activities. You can see that there's 2, I had mentioned earlier, for each of the lessons. Let's just flip to another section so you can see a typical layout for a lesson. So here is your first reading page for this topic of ecosystems. It's a good amount of text. I like that the font is a little bit larger, totally appropriate for the 3rd grade. There's your second page of reading, your third page of reading. You have some questions here. On these, in this one, I find that the text takes up the majority of the page and there's less space or opportunity for kids to, do the portion that they're doing. Visual literacy, I like the incorporation of reading charts and graphs. This is a vocabulary practice and it's done in a crossword puzzle format. Your 2 pages of your hands-on activities. And I think you can tell, but these are 2 separate hands-on activities. It's not just one that spans 2 pages. And then your application, which is your final page. So again, this is the only bright and full color resource. It does include a variety of topics. It covers those important strands of science, and the text seems appropriate for the 3rd grade level. Depending on your child's reading level, you might have to do some reading for them. Okay, let me just see where I am with time. All right, so the next one is "180 Days of Science." I'm just getting my pages organized here. So again, this is level 3. It's not called grade 3, but it's level 3. This comes in pre-K through 6th grades. I've already offered my commentary on whether you need a pre-K, kindergarten, 1st, or even 2nd grade science curriculum. This runs around $15 to $20. The pre-K one on Amazon is the only one that's $20, and I believe that's just because it's the only one that's in full color. You can get this on Amazon, TCM, which is Teacher Created Materials, or Rainbow Resource. And there's 216 pages. And that does include the answer key here in the back, as well as a few rubrics for open-ended questions, and it includes the appendix. There is, as the name suggests, 180 lessons, and that is broken down into, it's 36 weeks of content. Here's your strands: life science, physical science, earth and space science. You have exactly 12 lessons for each, and again, each lesson actually has 5 pages to complete, so 1 per day. Day 1 is always where you're learning the content. It has the majority of the text that you're going to read. Day 2, there's day 1. Day 2 is analyzing data. Day 3 is this developing, it's called developing questions. You have more text. Day 4, planning solutions. And finally, day 5 is communicating results. As far as the organization, and if it includes any reviews or tests, I mentioned that each unit, there's 3 units, has 3 different lessons, and each week has 1 page to complete per day. There is a commentary about using this as a diagnostic assessment tool, but there aren't any reviews that are built in periodically. It is aligned to state standards, I should say national standards, using the next generation science standards, and it's aligned, and they also include all of the standards in this helpful chart in the beginning. There are no hands-on science experiments built into this program. The pages, as you can see, are black and white. There is a good variety of illustrations, black and white photographs, charts and graphs, both that the student has to build and that they have to interpret. I will say that there is lots of multiple choice questions. There's open-ended questions as well, or short answer questions as well, but the majority is the multiple choice. And then if you are familiar with any of the 180 Day series, you'll know that in the back of the back cover, there's something that gives you information about where to go to access the TCM Content Cloud, and that will give you some additional resources. Okay, the next one is DK Learn and Explore. This will cost around $6, and you can get it on Amazon, Rainbow Resource, and the DK website. This is available kindergarten through 3rd grade. This is the slimmest of all of the resources. I would say this is supplement at best. This would not be appropriate for a full science course, in my opinion. So there's 60 pages that include the answer key. The answer key has these mini versions of each of the pages, and also some background information, which is helpful. I don't know if that's the best place to put it, but it's contained in there. And the lessons are 1 page each. They all have a bit of text at the top that has like facts, and then some sort of diagram for some of them, and a section for students to complete. I'm realizing that it actually does have hands-on science experiences or experiments. But what's interesting is that I'll show you here. Here are all of the topics. There actually isn't, they don't identify them here. So I guess I missed that one in the back. They don't identify them here as experiments. The other element about this one is that these 46 different lessons, which are 1 page each, they do kind of jump around from topic to topic. There isn't like an earth science section, a physical science section, and a life science section like some of the other resources have. Those strands appear to be woven in here, but there isn't like a cohesiveness that some of the others have. Each page covers 1 topic. You have your facts at the top. This has like the least amount of text of all these resources. And then there's an activity for students to do. I think that this one is very simple, very concise. Maybe if you want a supplement, this would be good for you. I find that, it's certainly kid-friendly in its approach. It's not full color at all. You can see that the pages are actually mostly black and white. The only color are these red headings. Okay, the next one is this. When you find this on Amazon, it's called Steck. I think I said Streck in the beginning. It's called Steck-Vaughn. Now I'm questioning if it's Steck or Streck, but I'll link it below. But when I received it, it was actually, I realized it was maybe that publisher has been absorbed by the Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt publisher. It's $9.99. The price is very consistent across grades. I can only find this on Amazon. It's included for grades 2 through 8. It is 132 pages. Obviously, when I'm mentioning some of these details, it's specific to this grade level. 132 pages, and that does include the answer key. This is the one that I was mentioning. It has about the same amount of text as the Spectrum, but the font is larger. The images are included within the text, and it spans 2 pages. So if you have a student who doesn't mind doing a fair amount of reading, this would be a great resource. The Spectrum one, in my opinion, can be a little bit intimidating because it has a lot of text and the text is very small. The font is very small. So this one is broken into 3 units. life science, earth science, and physical science. The lessons are identified with like a guiding or essential question. There's 32 lessons within here. And each lesson, as you'll see, has 2 pages of text, as I mentioned, and a 2-page worksheet for the students to complete. Each unit has between 9 and 12 lessons. It is aligned to state standards, the next generation science standards. It's mentioned here. And there are no hands-on science experiences or experiments included in here. I would say this is more of a content-based approach to science. Each lesson has a full front and back text. You can see the guiding question was written at the top of the text page, and then each one has a 2-page worksheet for the kids to complete. The questions are labeled with the skill, main idea, vocabulary, reading skill, main idea and details, critical thinking, apply, inquiry skill, communicate, and then there's always this test prep section. It's black and white, as you can see, and there's illustrations, maps, and diagrams throughout. Okay, the last one is Evan-Moor Daily Science, and this is the longest of all the resources. This is available in grades 1 through 6, and it should be noted that this is technically the teacher's manual. You could absolutely use this with the student and have the student complete the pages. If you just had one student, or if you don't mind purchasing another one. You can also purchase the student practice workbook separately that just has the student pages, and that's usually around $6. You can get it on Rainbow Resource, and Amazon does have it for a few different grade levels. As far as this teacher's manual is concerned, it will run you around $13 to $18 on Amazon, Rainbow Resource, or the Evan-Moor website. And you can also probably find used copies. I actually got this one used on eBay, but again, just make sure that it's not written in. I mentioned that it covers grades 1 through 6, and it's 192 pages. This is the longest. It has the answers here in the back and the answer key. The student version does not have the answer key, naturally. It is organized into these 6 big ideas. I do have a 4th grade version of this workbook. I have a video up, so I'll link that. So you have your big ideas here. There is this guiding principle for each one. There's 6 big ideas. Those are the units. For each big idea unit, there's 4 weeks of daily material. 1, 2, 3, 4, plus this review week. And in that unit review, there's 4 pages: a comprehension page, a vocabulary page, visual literacy, and a hands-on activity. The teacher's manual, which you'll see, has for each unit this great teacher background and unit overview page. And then for each separate week within each of the units, there is a breakdown of what's going on each day. It's mentioned in the teacher's manual in the front that the units are based on the national science standards, and then each unit has the key concepts and standard that's covered. The strands are life science, earth science, and physical science, so that's pretty clear across all of them. And there are hands-on science experiences or experiments listed within here, and they're contained in the unit review. So I'm going to show you. I can't really show, a typical day is a little tricky because it does change when you consider the unit reviews. But so this is week 4, and why am I starting at week 4? That doesn't make sense. Let's start at week 1. Okay. So here is week 1 of Big Idea 2. So your big idea is listed here, and here's your guiding question for that week. So it's for the 4 content weeks for each unit, the guiding question is different. So you can see a bit of text, some activities for the student to do. There's always vocabulary on this side. I like that. There's always this little tab here that tells you exactly where you are in the sequence. There's your day 2 and day 3, day 4, and day 5, and then you move into the next week. There's your teacher background page, and you get into your sheets for that week. If I flip ahead to week 5, you can see the unit review. Again, that's 4 days. So you have your comprehension. You could 100% treat this like a test, your vocabulary, and then your visual literacy. That's always like reading a sequence of illustrations or graphs or charts, and then your unit review hands-on activity. So let's see. This is black and white, but there's ample illustrations and diagrams throughout. This is the longest and probably most comprehensive of all the resources. I actually plan to use this for a different grade level for next year. We're turning it into kind of a unit study approach. Okay, so I think that's it for my Battle of the Science workbooks. If you have any questions, please comment below. If this is helpful, please let me know down below. And if there's any other subjects that you want me to do this sort of deep dive comparison in, I'm happy to entertain ideas, because this is always fun for me to do. As you can see, it's a fair amount of work. I try to make it as helpful for you as possible. If you like this sort of video, please like, comment, and subscribe.